In the first session, today we covered web services part, and in this part we will be covering data access. If you have any questions, please go ahead. Now I will be showing you an example on the web services to consume a third-party web service. In the first part, we were having a problem. The service that we were consuming, it was not running on that side, on the server. So I have searched a web service, a third-party web service, and now we are trying to, I will be showing you how we can consume it and how we can create a rich interface based on the result of the service. Okay. I'm just looking for some questions here. Okay, I hope you can see my screen and have clear voice. Now we are back in our code. Okay, I have found a visual service through which we are able to consume. It's basically giving us some information regarding different countries. We are putting some parameters, and it's giving, based on the parameters, it's giving a list of different information about that country. I'll just double click on this visual file. Here we have the URL where this web service is being running. Let me show you this web URL that is being running. If you see, I have just copied the URL where this web service is running, and I ran this URL inside of the browser. If you see here, I'm getting an XML reply. So you would be having a similar reply. In case of like AIX or mainframe, you would be saying, okay, this is a web service sort of reply. Okay, now, okay, if you see here, we have interface with this name, countries web service mobilefish.com port. So this is the complete big name for this interface. And then we have 4 different functions. And each of the functions have different input and output parameters. If you see here, we have in the first function, country info by INA. Its input parameter type is a string, and it's returning country information in country data format. Country data, let's see what this is, what is the type of this country data variable. Just click this angle, arrow sign, and you will be having a pop-up. If you see here, inside of the country data, we have 4 other variables, and their type is a string. You can consider this country data as a record, and inside of the record, we have 4 different variables. 2 are strings and 2 are float types. Same way, if you see for region list, you can see its type, and same way INI list, you can have INI list. And so on. Okay, now let's first test this visual file. Either it's running or not running, then we will create our code based on this web service. Now just copy your visual file inside of your code, right click, select it and right click, then web services, and then test with Web Services Explorer. Okay, here we have couple of functions here, like get numbers of rupees left, countries info by INI, get INI info, regions info by INI. So these are the different functions that we can call. Let me click here, country info by INI. I have read about this web service. The INI code is representing the short form for a country, like US stands for United States. So just provide US here, click go. Now if you see here at the bottom, we have result of this web service. We have this information like INI code in US, and second variable have this value and latitude and longitude information. Get regions info by INI, maybe US. I have not tried this function. Let me try it here. How it works? I think regions may be by continents or some other things. Okay, let's call this country info by INI, this function inside of our EGL code. The details of this web service is listed on the website that is hosting this this web service. So from that website we can get the detail of all these functions and what are the shortcuts like INI, for what INI stands for, and what are the regions code. I have just seen only INI. It stands for a shortcut or short name for a country. Now, once you have copied here and you are satisfied that okay, it's running fine in the Web Explorer, now select your visual file, right click, and then here you have an option EGL services, and then you would be having two options, EGL, create EGL service skeleton, and create EGL client interface. Now here we are going to create client interface. So select second option. A wizard will appear. It's highlighting, okay, this visual file contains one interface, and its name is this one. If you see here at the bottom, create SOAP service bindings. Keep the default options selected, press next. Because I have already ran this wizard, now it has already created some files, interfaces and functions, so I am checking this override existing files option. Okay. Now I will be selecting the function that I want to call inside of my my code. When I am selecting this option, a warning is coming because this service is based on an older version of SOAP. That's why we have this warnings coming in our code. Otherwise, if it's based on the SOAP version 2 or the latest version, then there would not be any warnings. Anyway, just select it. We have selected our two functions that we are interested to call in. And you can select all functions. Let's select all functions. Press next. Now here, if you see here, it's creating a port with this name, and interface name is this one, and binding name is this. Now update all existing bindings because I have already generated. That's why update all bindings that are already existing in my code. Just press finish. It will create a file or multiple files based on the structure of web service. In our case, it has generated only single file. If you see here, it has generated this folder, the same service interface name, and inside of this folder we have countries.egl file. Now, if we go inside of this countries.egl file, we have this code. We have different records, and their type is this one. the extra properties. You can get more detail about these properties. Just copy this name and go in the help here, help contents, and type in here this property, and you can have the detail of this property available. How this property affect this record, and what is the purpose of this property, and so on. Okay, let's just focus on the different records. Okay, we have regions data record, we have number of request data record. It has one element, INI data, and then we countries data, and at the bottom we have an interface. Here, this is the name of the interface, and within the curly brackets we have some properties set. If name is this one, this interface name is this, and it's using this namespace, this URL on the website of this web service where this is running. Same way, within this interface we have 4 functions. These are the 4 functions that are present inside of this interface, means inside of this visual file web service. In the first function, it has this name, is taking this parameter, INI code in a string format, and taking is an in parameter. Then it's returning country data. And what is the country data? You can see here, this is a record. It has created country data information as well. Okay. And same as some properties set here, and same way it goes for like another parameter, and it's returning INI data and regions info by INI, request, and some other way. Now let's go back inside of our code. Okay, I will be creating a new file. If you have any questions, please go ahead. Let me see here if there is any question. Oh, there isn't any. Okay. Okay, now first we have to set the interface here, like a button that will be pressed, and it will be calling a web service here. Now, same way we need a text field here. Okay, now once this is done, we can have either because this web service that we are intended to call, it's returning an array of INI data, country array. So let me put a text file here, label text, and then we will try to put the output inside of this one. Okay, but before that I have to create an event handler for this button called I will just change the name of this button. Now on click event, I am creating a new event. Now inside of event, I will be calling this service. Now just go back to the generated code, select the interface name, any object, for example, my object, and we have to bind. There is a bind property through which we bind our web service inside of our code. Okay. Now, same way, it's not recognizing the information of this interface because we have quoted the definition of this interface inside of this bridge UI. So, same way, press Ctrl-Shift-O, it will import the information of this interface within your code. Okay. Now, once we have done this, okay, let me put this code within the try catch block. Make sure exception. Oh, I will be writing call my object dot. Now, if here it's giving the list of available functions that are present within this interface. I will be calling this one in return to show result is my name for the successful function, and now show error message. Okay, semicolon. Same way, if these both functions, right click here and then press create callback functions. Both callback functions will be created. Okay. Let's go back here, and I will be taking this label. Okay. I will be designing my interface. For example, if there is exception generated, so it should be displayed in this label. You can have multiple labels, but I'm using the same one here. Okay, now we would like to show the result in on this label, using this label. So here, same this label, state dot, and label is country name. Now here it's giving 4 different values, so I can either concatenate them or I can have multiple labels. Let me try it here. I don't think so it would work here. Let's try it. Let's see what will happen if we put this PR code, because this is going to be generated, interpreted by the browser. So BR will be translated by the HTML tag. So let's see what will happen. Another tag here. There's some noise coming. I'm going to mute all of you. Okay, it's fine now. Okay, and we are done with the result. Now here we have to supply the input parameter. So I would be using this country code this text field. I have just kept the default generated widget name. You can have give them any name based on your requirement, maybe like country field, country label, and the result label. Okay, once this is done, now if I like, I can print something on the window, just notifying that okay, we are calling the web service and this event is going to be loaded. We can have loading image here. We would be having an image, loading image available. First time it would be visible false using the CSS properties, and then once we are clicking the on click, the event of loading web service or calling web service, we will make the loading image visible true. And once result has been fetched or any exception generated, we will make or we will turn the image visible false. This would be a small type of assignment for you. You try to put any loading image when you try to call a web service. If you face any problem, let me know. I will show you tomorrow how we can use a loading image on our page and how we can programmatically make it visible true and false. Okay. Calling web service. Okay. Now we are done. Let's call this web service. I will be giving any US. Click. When I click this button, dialog box will appear. It's saying, okay, this application is invoking a service and can access either a service part from the source code inside of your workspace or a deployed version of the service. Here in this case we are calling a deployed version. This is deployed on the third party, on the different server or location. You can either save this, remember this, so next time it will not be asked for only this web service. Okay, just place. Now I'm pressing OK. Okay, if you see here we have result, but our BR code didn't work. Now instead of doing this thing, we are now going to replace this widget. Okay, now let's put an HTML widget instead here. I can make it HTML. Import the definition of HTML widget here. Okay. Now we have to do some certain properties here. This will be shown as a simple one. So I am just giving it bold text. So the error messages will be shown as a bold. Okay. Same thing here. Be changing the variable name. So in this way, the text property represent the HTML tag on the browser. Okay. Refresh the page. Here we have a refresh button at the end of this screen. You see here on the right side, we have a refresh button. We have a button that will execute this file in the XML browser. Let's click here. Okay. US. Click here. Calling web service, same way interface here. Pop-up will appear. Press OK. Okay. Here we have result. Now we can format in a more designed way. We can have bold, or we can give any HTML code here. So in this way we can do a lot of things. So this was about the web services. Now I'm going to database part. Okay, I hope this would be clear to everyone now that how we can consume a third-party web service inside of our code. In the databases part, we will be first learning how we can create a database connection and how we can do different things, and then we will be creating a web service that is talking to database, and then we will consume that web service in our code. Okay. Any question regarding the web services? I'm just moving onwards here. Let me see here if you have any question here. I have a question. I'm just replying it. Just a minute. Okay. Okay, here we are starting with the learning database DB2 and SQL. For example, someone from you is not having experience on any relational database system or SQL query. Then here we have some links through which he can get some experience on relational database and SQL queries. Now here, how we can create a connection with a database from within the RBD tool. Here we have some high-level information given. We can either use a wizard or we can use a dynamic query rather than using the generated query or embedded query. Okay, here we have in steps. I will show you later on how we can create a connection. We would be following the same steps. If you remember, in the first class, we had followed the same steps. In the database perspective, we had created a new connection with Derby database, and then we opened the Derby database and we seen different tables and we executed custom queries. Here we have database perspective. Here we can have multiple connections with different databases, and we can open multiple databases at one time, and we can run our custom queries. We can save the result of tables in text files, or we can load the existing values or records that are already in our text file or comma separated files. We can load them in our tables. So here inside of this database perspective, once you have opened your table, you can either load or you can extract data from these tables. Same way, you can create your views here, you can create stored procedures here, you can do a lot of things here. And even there is some option available through which you can see the visual relationship within these tables and within their fields. Like primary key, okay, this is the primary key of one table, and this is the foreign key in another table, and they have this relationship. We have already read about what are the records, and we have seen slightly not in much detail, that what are the SQL records. SQL records are the same way they are created for as we create normal records, same way we create SQL records. And we do some settings within their curly braces. We specify the table names, the default selection column name, in the list of the columns, and some other properties. I'll be showing. Okay, here we have an example of SQL record. If you see here at the bottom, we have order SQL record. Its type is SQL record, and within the curly braces, we have multiple properties set, like table names, and inside of the bracket signs, if you see, this angle bracket represents that we can specify multiple tables or multiple items. If you remember how we create arrays in EGL, we specify or we give these angle signs, large brackets. So these large brackets denotes that this is possible or this takes multiple values. Same way we have another property, we have key items. So the order ID will be behaved as the key items. It will be by default used as in the where class, or it will be used by default as in the order by clause. And it will be used, for example, you are fetching a single record based on what? Based on this order ID. Okay. So then we have the column list that is available within this orders table. We have first order name or order ID, and in the curly braces we have column property, and where we are specifying the EGL dot order. EGL is the schema name, and then dot order is the table, and then we have orders ID column. Same way we have set other columns. If you see here, we have is SQL nullable equal to yes. So this is SQL nullable property denotes that this column is able to accept SQL null values. If this property is no, then this column will not accept null values from SQL queries. Same way we have other properties like maximum length for this column, the maximum character length for this column, or minimum length, and some other properties are there. You can get the list of available properties either by pressing Control space button from your keyboard, or going in the detail of your help, RBD help, and then typing the SQL record, and then going in the detail of the columns properties, and then you can find detail of these items. Here we are trying to highlight, for example, there are so many columns within your table, and you don't want to manually type in all the columns inside of your SQL record, but instead, once you have created your SQL connection with the database inside of your project, and then you have to only type in the SQL record variable, like in case, for example, I have typed in only record customer and it's type SQL record, and then I specified the table property, and then I can right click, and from the context menu I can select SQL record and then retrieve SQL. So this retrieve SQL command will retrieve all the columns that are present within that table. So in this way we can save our time. Here we are showing how we can retrieve columns. Same way, okay. Now we are we are going to see here we have in code example given here. We have a library, its type is basic library, and we have my employee rec, its type is employee record. And employee record is SQL record variable, and it has table names property, and in the table's names property we have a specified employee. So this table, this property denotes that this employee record is bind with a employee table. And key items denotes the by default column that will be used in the where clause, in the sort, in the order by clause, or in the like select or delete clauses. The same way we have two other columns that are been initialized or mentioned inside of this employee. So these two columns will be present inside of this employee table. So at the bottom we have initialized a record, and within the library we have a function. Its name is addEmployee, and then we have add keyword, and then my employee record. So here this add keyword is going to generate insert statement in the background. You only have created your SQL record. You just provide values or input your values in the SQL record, and then only write add command in your SQL record name. Then the values that are present in your SQL record, they will be automatically inserted in the corresponding table. I will show you what are the other words and how they work, and how they insert or select or delete queries. Here we have number of these keywords or statements. If you see here, the add statement issues an insert statement, insert SQL statement, and the delete reserved word issues an delete query, and get or open generates a select statement, and replace generate an update statement. Even if you want to see what is the current statement that will be generated by these words, we have option available. We can right click and we can see the detail of the generated statement here. I will show you how you can see the hidden statement here. Here we are showing the same statement. For example, there is a get customer array, and there is a get is a reserved in your customer array record name. So you place your cursor between these two words and then right click, and then there would be an option, show SQL query, some sort of this option. Then it will reveal you the statement, SQL statement that is being generated on behalf of this get reserved. Same way, if you don't like the generated or these by default generated or helpful or these custom generated queries, you can write your own SQL statements. You don't like to use this add, replace, update reserved, and you want to put your own SQL query, then you can use your custom or explicit statements. Same way, there's possibility if in some cases we need to supply some host variable, a variable in the where class that variable will be updated at the runtime. That variable does not belong to SQL query, but it is a variable inside of our application, and at the runtime we would be putting some value inside of that variable, and that value will be used in the where class or in the other classes. So So this functionality is possible to achieve in EGL. We would be using a colon mark after the equal sign, and then we would be putting our corresponding variable name. Here we have an example. I'll show you how you can put your host variable. So same way, we can open cursors in EGL language, and we can iterate over the cursors. Here we are learning about an imported class. It's a for update class. If you see here in the try on exception block, we have opened reserved. Then our a name for our cursor, and then we have for update reserved, and then for reserved, another for reserved, and then imply this holds our SQL query. So in this way, here we are opening this SQL command or SQL query is for update. We are going to do some updation or update or deletion. So it will lock down single rows. One time we can do some operations on a single row, and at the same time others cannot modify the same table or same lines. And then we have for each looping statement. As we have seen, there are like 3, I think, looping statement for each and while. So this is one of the looping statement. Here we are specifying the for name, and then we are iterating through our SQL query, and then we are doing like replace, means as we already seen that it's updating the records. And then we are using system library syslib.commit, so it will commit the changes made by this cursor, and it will commit the changes inside of our query, inside of our database. Here denotes our result set, and then using the commit, we are committing the code. Okay. I think I have a question here. Let me see. What are those double columns? These double columns are concatenating. They concatenate this space character with this value, and then concatenating these 3 letters into this statement, and then whole values will be stored in this imp name field. Okay. Okay, here we have option available inside of EGL. We can create records based on the JSON format, or based on the XML, or based on some XML schema. We will be, for example, we will be giving the URL or the location of XML file, and then based on that JSON or XML, it will be creating the corresponding records that we can use in our application, and then we can perform some operation with date file or date JSON or some other protocol. Okay. Okay, here at this high level overview, what we are going to do this. Okay, this is the plan. We would be calling database and then showing the result inside of our grid. Here we are going to create a database connection. Once we are done, then the build descriptor. Inside of the build descriptor, we are giving our we are specifying the database connection name that we have just created. Then build descriptor will be updated with the information of database connection. And as you know, I think yesterday I explained about the build descriptor. Build descriptor have like a major effect on the generation of your project. So there are a lot of properties through which we control the behavior of our project, the generation behavior. We specify different properties. For example, let's say J2EE property is equal to yes, means this project is going to generate Java code. Or there is a system property where we are specifying that this project is going to be running on Windows mainframe, I series, AIX, or some other Linux, Unix, or other system. Or it's going to generate JavaScript. Same way, we are specifying SQL connection, SQL DB, driver name, SQL ID and password, and there are some other by default date format, default currency format, default some other formats. Okay, first starting with creating a new project, we are creating a web project, and then inside of web project we would like to run this web project on Tomcat server. Then we would be creating a database connection, then selecting our corresponding database, and then the choice of tables that we want to use inside of our code, and then once they are generated, the RBD code will generate different libraries and data items and variables details. For example, it will generate some custom records that will denote each table, and it will generate some libraries that will be having by default generated custom functions. For example, a function to add a single value. For example, a function to add multiple records. For example, there is a function by default generated that has to delete a single record. Same way, there are functions generated that helps you to update, modify, delete, and perform such type of transactions or such type of actions. So for each table that you have imported through the wizard, these custom functions and libraries will be generated for you. So you don't have to write any line, you don't have to write connection parameters or properties, you don't have to create SQL records, or you don't have to write the whole functions like update function, delete function, and some other functions. Okay, here we are seeing the detail of SQL record. I will show you graphically rather than looking through the slide. It would be better we go there and see. Okay, once we imported, we are going to create a rich UI handler, and then inside of the handler we would be calling our database. Same way, we are calling the the service part. Okay, and then when we are calling the service, it will be running in this format and then showing the result. Okay, so this was all about the database call. Now I think I have few slides remaining. Let me first go through this, and then I will go to the demo part. File exec. For example, let's say you want to call some comma-separated CSV file or sequential or index file inside of your code. How you can do this? Or for example, you have a Java code. How you would like to call your existing Java code inside of your application, inside of your DB2 handler, or inside of your Java code in the RBD EGL generated Java code. We would be using the build deployment descriptor, and then we are creating some build descriptor options. Here we have like linkage options and resource association files. Once you have selected your build descriptor from the outline view, you right click on your build descriptor, and then you would be having a pop-up where you have three options like build descriptor, linkage options, resource association. You will be like selecting each of them. For example, a linkage option you will be having where you mention the linkage. So for example, you want to have a detail for your mainframe connection or COBOL connection, then you will be specifying the server IP, library name, and the port, user ID, password, and some other details. Same as resource association. For example, you want to create or consume. Either you want to generate or you want to call in your code. The text files or comma separated files. So you would be using resource association. Same way, from the build descriptor, you have to set few properties. Here we have highlighted like a SQL JNDI name. The JNDI name is people-friendly string that gets entered to your J2 server physical object. Through the JNDI name, you would be like locating the database, a database connection object or database object, and then you have another properties that you have to set like system properties, either generating Java or JavaScript, DBMS property, which database, relational database you want to connect to, and the resource association files. For example, these are the properties file where you specify a connection with your either mainframe or some other flat file systems to which you want to have some connection, and then you want to access or create or generate something on that machine, or you want to create some text files or CSV files, or you want to read them inside of your code. Same way, there are J2EE properties, generate directory, where you would be generating your COBOL code. So here you would be specifying the directory on your machine. And same way, SQL validation, connection, deployment, description options. Here is have high-level overview. Like in the EGL project, we can have multiple build files. For example, we can have one build file through which we want to generate Java script only. But we would be using a single project with multiple build files. For example, we have some code in one project that we want to generate into JavaScript, and we have another code that we want to generate into Java, and we have third code that we want to convert into COBOL. So we can have three different build files, and each build files have different properties and their respected linkage options or resource association files, where we would be highlighting different properties. For example, URL for your flat file system, your mainframe, and their data parts, and their libraries, their ports, user ID, password. Same way, for text file or CSV file, we will be highlighting the location where those files reside on our machine, and their file name, their extension name, and what type of the operating system is where they are located on, either on Windows or Linux or other systems. Here we have an example of resource association with a dot date file. Here we want to store some binary data inside of this custom file. We have system is a Windows, and then file type is sequential file, and then we have some other property like text is a yes, and it means it can accept the it will be storing the text values. And then we have some other properties. Once we have done this, from within the resource association, we would be having the location of text file on hard disk, and we would be creating some record where we would be mentioning the name of that flat file or the resource file that we have created inside of our build descriptor, and then we would be using this record inside of our code, inside of our program. In this way, we are going to call this this text file, or we are going to generate this text file. Here we have how we can create resource association. Select your build descriptor, right click, add part, then resource association, and then you have to set your properties. Then once you have done the resource association, then here we have a code. Here we are going to get next record from this this record that is configured with this text file, with this CSV file. So in this way, we are getting, or we are fetching values through this record, and then doing some other operations. Same way, once you have taken your values from the text file or CSV file or some other file, then it's up to you. Either you can show them in the grid or in the text field or in some other way. Here we have an example. Once you have configured your record, you have created your resource association, and then inside of your code, how you can write your values, your data onto the text file, inside of the text file. Here we have more detailed example of this record. For example, here we are going to have a CSV record. We are giving the file name as CSV file. Delimiter is a comma, and then we have text qualifier is slash, and then some other properties. And these are the values that are stored inside of this text CSV file. Job code, permanent status, higher status, and first name. Same way, once you have record this, once you have created this record and have created your resource association file, then within the code you can call this record. You can either retrieve or you can update values of this CSV file. Here we are printing the values on the console. Okay, same way we can call external programs. As I told you, we can call other programs, either they are Java programs or other programs or JavaScript. Same way we would be using linkage options, resource association, where we are specifying the connection parameter. I have a good course, a complete course on this topic. Like for example, if you are interested to call COBOL programs, or you want to generate COBOL programs through EGL, then I can forward you that course. I can give you the link of that course through which you can generate COBOL from your EGL, or you can call the COBOL programs inside of your EGL application. Okay. Okay, now this is done. Now let's move to our database part. We are already near to our finish line. Okay, now first I will be creating a new project. I'll be creating a web project. My database, give it any name, and then press next. Now select your server here. It's not giving me Apache here, so I can click here new. Okay. Now I can select Apache from this list, version 6. Let me browse the location where I have Apache on my system. Programs, Apache, Tomcat. Okay, finish. Now I have Apache available. Please finish. No, it's asking me, do you like to change the web perspective? No, I don't like to. Let me, in the servers view, I have to add the server here, Apache Tomcat, because it's not already there. Okay, finish. Now just select your project here. This is my database project. This is generated by default. This is the by default generated code. Now select your EGL source folder. Right click here, select new, and then other. EGL source folder, and then new, and then other. Now select the EGL option and then data access application option inside of this EGL. Next. Now this is our data access wizard. I'll be specifying the name of my project here, my database. Inside of this project, I want to import my database. So I will be creating a database connection. For example, if I do not have a database connection already in my environment, then I can create either a new connection from here. Click new. Now here in this demo I am just going to select Derby. I have selected the right driver, then going to the right path where I have this Derby on my machine, then providing user ID and password, test connection. Okay, connection succeeded. Save the password so that it should not ask you again for the password. Then disable filter. Otherwise, it will import all the schemas that are present inside of this database. I need only my desired schema. I need only EGL schema. So once I have imported, it will list me down the list of the tables that are present inside of this EGL schema. Then press next. Here, if you see, here it's giving options. Choose key fields, the primary fields. By default, it has selected some items, but maybe some table doesn't have. For example, in site user, it doesn't have included. I can set this one, site user ID as primary key. Okay. Then next, now qualify table names with a schema. let's say you want to import multiple schemas or multiple schemas from multiple databases inside of your code. Now this is possible that a table name can be present in multiple schemas, or there can be a table, a similar name of table present in different schemas or different databases. So in this way you are qualifying your schema name with table name. So now table names are preceded by this schema name. That EGL is schema name in dot, customer or is the table. So these are my tables. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now press finish. Now if you see here, it will generate different folders inside of this EGL source. 1, 2, 3, 4. It has generated 4 folders for me. In the data, in the primitive types .data folder, we have data definitions here. Here we have definition for each column, or the variable that denotes the columns. You can change these column names, and then you can you have to only specify the correct column names inside of the record definition. But by default, for a readability, it has generated the same variable names as to the column names. So it has different definition, like either what type they have, like date, string, integer, and some others. So this was the first one. Then we have data, like EGL Derby 7.data folder, and then we have customer. We have a single file per table. If you see here, we have record, customer record, its type is SQL, and then we have table names is EGL dot customer, and field match column, yes, it should match the corresponding field columns, and based on the match, it should fetch the result. And which will be the field match column? This would be the customer ID. These are the customer. These are the columns that are present inside of this table, and it has different properties, like maximum is SQL nullable or variable. Okay. Same way at the bottom, it has created a separate record as customer search record that help us to fast our coding or business development things, so that we have to we don't have to create custom records. So it has only generated this custom record, so that we can quickly do some other operations as per our need. Okay. Same way we have same definitions for other tables like items. These are the items column in item custom record. This record is SQL is having SQL record type, and this record is by default means basic record. There's no type mentioned, so by default it will be considered as a basic record. This record will be used when you are manipulating the values from. Okay. So same way it goes for all the tables, and then we have customer lib. We have a separate lib per library, like we have customer lib, item libs, order items lib, orders lib, and other tables lib. And within this library, we have custom functions, like function add customer. Here it's taking 2 parameters through which we can add a new record here. And if here it's taking either this record is valid, means it has the values, or it is in the correct format and it's not empty, and then in the try catch block, and here it's issuing an add command, add reserver. So it will generate insert query for you. Now let me show you here how it which query is being generated here. Just press your cursor between this age reservoir and new record. Right click here and then SQL statement 8. If you see, once you done this, you will have this query. Okay, these are the columns, and if you see how values are being transferred, these values are being transferred by an external host variable. In our case, new record is our host variable that is being passed by this parameter. So it's using a colon mark here, and then corresponding column. So customer ID goes to customer ID, first name to first name, last name to last name. So in this way, it has constructed this query, and this query will be used in the background for this add statement. Same way it goes for all those statements. If you see here, there are multiple other add customer list. It's going to add multiple records inside of this table. Same way get customer. For example, you want to search the customer, then this get command will be issued, and let's see the SQL query that will be generated, that will be executed by default or in the background. This is the query. Select all records, and in the where clause, based on the customer ID, as we have seen that the customer ID has been highlighted here is key item is customer ID. So by default, it's using this customer ID is in the where clause or order by clause and some other statements. Okay, here same way it's using this. So in this way, it has generated a lot of code for each of the table, and each table have in their separate lib with different functions, same functions like add one record or multiple record, get record, delete one record, all records, and so on. And there are some other items or records available that help you to fast your development. Okay, now I'm coming back quickly to creating a web service here through which I will be calling my database. Now select here, create a new project package here, my DB services. I will be creating a web service here. Select this project here, right click new, and click service. My or there be services. It's up to you, give it any name. There be W service. Soap service, finish. Just remove the default generated code here. Create your, so we are generating web service, therefore it's deploying here. I don't know why it's being on the server. We are at this moment we don't like to go on the server. Just wait here. Wait. Okay. Let me continue here. Okay, I am going to now create a variable customer. The type is array. Now this 0 denotes that it will be an array variable. Now I will be creating a function show all customers, and then okay, this function should return me the customer array. Okay, and now here I'll be issuing get query get customers on description, and then Okay. Okay, I have made this mistake here. Returns. Okay, this should be returns, not return. Okay, now once you have called your query, right click here, see the background query. This is the background query. Now once you have returned, now I would be return record. So now it will return me this record. So it's fetching records, all the rows, and storing in a local variable this one, and then returning this local variable. And we have also specified that this function is returning an array of customers. Okay, once you have done this, save your file, select your project, and right click here and click the generate option. The generate option always generates the code. For example, in case of JavaScript, it will generate the Java code. In case of Java or COBOL, it will generate the corresponding Java or COBOL code. By the way, when you are saving your file, automatically it's generating the code. But you can explicitly generate your code. And sometimes it becomes like it is good or recommended to right click and generate manually here. For example, there is a lot of code, a lot of files, so you should be careful and manually generate the code. Okay, once this is done, then we will be having, now let's see, go inside of web content folder. Here a visual file will be created for you with the same this services name. Double click here and it's showing that it's running on this location. Now let's first, this is not my server, this is the Tomcat one. Now let me first try this web service and then I will consume this in Rich UI. Same way, test with Web Service Explorer. We have one function here. We have no parameter. We have just to press the button here. Okay, click OK. Return 0. Y, return 0. Now we have to see. Let me first see in the database connection wizard. Okay, we have to disconnect the Derby connection here because at one time we can have a single connection with Derby database because this is a single threaded database. So if it is already open, we cannot have multiple connections with Derby, because Derby itself is a single threaded. So I have just clicked here. Let me deploy this application again on the server. I think it's already there. Okay, it's already there. Okay, let me try it again. Web services and test web services here. Select the function, click here. Again return 0. Why it's not getting values? Now we have to do some troubleshooting here. Now this is good. Sometimes that in this way we can have an idea that why this is not returning something here. I am here. To the file. Now let's call this. Let me refresh and generate. Now I will call this again. It's saying that it's returning, but why it's not showing the result? This is already an array and it's fetching the results. Oh, maybe it's not. Let me see in the build descriptor. Maybe we have missed. Yes, we have missed this step. In the build descriptor, we missed to specify the database connection. And in the background, I think it was not. It was generating something or an exception, and here we have not printed exception. That's why we are seeing this thing. Let me print the exception. This is the reason we always have to put our code inside of our try block, but unfortunately here at this moment I haven't printed anything inside of on exception block. Now in this way I can check. Okay, once you have specified your build descriptor properties here, means the connection, database connection to which you want to have connection in this project, then let's test it again. We have redeployed application. Open the visitor file. Now let me test in the web browser again and see if it's still okay or something different. Oh, okay. Here we have cannot connect to. Still, it's not making connection. I think it's still. Select your project here. Right click in the properties. Now here we have runtime data source. Again, specify the same. Select this EGL runtime data source, and then you have to specify this connection option here, and then all your database settings will be highlighted. Then press OK. In this way, it will be 100% configured in your project. Sometimes build descriptor does not reflect on the generation of the project. So once we have set our properties from the project properties, build runtime build, and then okay, now let's see what will happen. Once this is done, then it will be only 2 minutes work to call the web service. I will not take much time of you guys. We are already a bit late. Okay, if you see here it's taking a bit more time. So it has successfully called. Okay, if you see, it has called the web service in the Web Services Explorer. So these are the results. Okay, in this way you can make sure, okay, either our visual file is okay, it's working fine or not. Otherwise, if you directly go in your code, in your environment, and you start your coding, and maybe there is something wrong with the web service or the server where it's running. So in this way, you may be wasting your time. So always first test your web service with the help of Web Service Explorer, and if you see there are problems or it is running fine, then you can move on. Okay, once we have done this, now let me quickly copy this visual file. I am going in my rich project. Now I am going to put this in the visual folder here that we already have. Right click, again EGL services, and create EGL client interface option. Next, we have only one function, that's why it's already selected. Finish. Same way it will generate the code for you. In this case, it has generated one and two projects. In one project, we have one file, this interface file and function name, and in another one, we have the record definition, the customer record definition. Okay, once we have done this, now I will be creating a new rich UI handler, my DB and love. Okay, now first quickly design the page. Put any button here. And then let's have a grid on the page. Here's the grid. Okay. Dojo grid. Okay. Drop on the page. Okay. Now select the button. Now let's set some properties of the button, like what we call customer table. And then let's have on-click event here. Now, this is important. Please this is important step that how we configure our data with a grid. How we bind our data with a grid. This is a by default generated information. If you see here inside of this data property, we have two rows by default generated. Let me delete them. And then here in the column we have name field. Now we have to specify the column name of the table, correct column name. If column name is not the same, or it is like unmatched with the proper name inside of the table, this grid will not show the result. So I am going to copy the column names inside of my record. I have proper column names. I'm taking first name in the first name, and in the header I like to show the same header name. I'm just removing the underscore sign. Same way the first name and last name. Let me create more columns. Okay. Now let me copy some other like phone. Phone and phone here, and then email address. Oh, I think I have this one. I have to remove this one. Okay, and then now I will take only few minutes, then I will finish the class. Here I am just configuring, or I am setting the column, the correct column name that must be same, so that my table, Dojo table or HUI table, both must have the same column to the corresponding table to which you want to bind this table. Once we have set the correct column, now inside of the event, same way, just click. First, let me type my exception block here. Any exception, and let me show any error message in case if I have message. Once I have done this, then I will be calling this interface name and sign and then bind your service. Once you are done with, now I again asking for the definition, Control Shift O, it will import the definition of this interface. Now once you are done, now call the function name and then returning to show my DB results, and on exception show my DB exceptions, semicolon, then select both functions, right click, create callback functions, and here select this create variable name, then press dot, and then select the data property equal sign, and then this result array is in array. As we have already read about, the ACE command dynamically converts the values based on the type, and any represent any value. So here we are. First, let me say in this way, like I don't know what are the values, what are the different columns that are existing inside of the customer table. Maybe they are integer, maybe they are string, maybe they are boolean, maybe they are date. So in this way, I'm saying, okay, whatever they are, let me take them as any, and I want to take all those columns, and I want to in this way I'm just like costing them. So here we are saying, okay, any column we would like to, and we would like to convert is any array, and then we are storing the result in this grid. Okay, once we are done this, now let me go back here. Okay, now let's click preview. So now we are going to call the web service. Okay. In the email I have not removed this underscore. Let me a quick design here. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to call this. Click call customer table. Let me open the console view so that we can see at the console what's happening. Clear old messages. Now click call customer table. If you see again, it's saying, okay, which service you want to call, either from the code one or the deployed version. I have already deployed version, so I can call the deployed version. I can call the source version. It's up to you. Here we have results. If you see how fast they are and how quickly they are being fetched here. Same way as Dojo by default support sorting and row selection, I can do anything. So in this way, we have called a web service here, and we created a web service. We called a database, and we have shown result in a grid. Okay, any question regarding these topics or any these things? Please go ahead before I finish today's class. Okay. Okay, your assignment for today's would be try to create a database connection first, and then create a web service. Inside of the web service, you would be calling the database, and then you create a rich UI project, put a grid on the page, and then same way as we did here, you call that web service and show the result inside of the grid. And if you have any third-party web service, same way you can call, you can use that web service and show me the result. And if you face any problem, please let me know. Either email me or tomorrow you can chat me. Okay? Okay, I'm just finishing. We are already ahead of time. Thank you very much for your time. We will meet tomorrow at the same time. Okay. Thank you. Take care. Bye.